Okay, I've got this homemade sprayer here. It pretty much, all it is an old diesel tank, 45 litres, and I've got a Shoreflow pump, 12 volt pump that I hook onto the battery of the Haflinger here, and it's got just a wand sprayer there, and it's really good for spot spraying, and I'll show it in action in a minute, but I'll just make up a batch of spray, and I'll just that. Okay. So what I do is I've got a bit of a mix here. I use the this one's called Associate, but what it is, it's metsulfuron methyl, 600 grams per kilo. So it's a good woody weed killer and stuff like that, but it also kills grass and everything. So I use that in combination with a glyphosate. So I use 3 of these little powder scoops for the 45 litres. And there you go there. Get that out of the way. Get this still. It's good stuff, that, and it's pretty cheap. Now the glyphosate I use about 10 mils per litre. So I've already put one in there. I need 3 of these. This stuff's gotten expensive, I can tell you. It's like $90 now for a 5 litre container, and that was shopping around. Yeah, it's good to wear gloves because you always get this shit on you. Now, next thing. This is chemical dye. This one's blue, but you're better off getting like a red, but they had no red there. And I just put a splash of this in there, and that way you're not going back over things you've already sprayed. And I've got it's a wetting agent, and it's non-ionic, and it goes a long way. You only need a couple of mils of that, and that way you get better absorption on the plants. Some of those waxy type plants, the water just runs straight off them, you know. So I always put the wetting agent at the end, because what happens is the tank will froth up and you'll get all foam coming out the top, makes a great mess. But yeah, this is a sort of, I've got about 5 metres of hose there, so I can get around things and spray them and that. But yeah, it's pretty much just like that. Just spot spray things. Few weeds there, here and there. Yep. And you can do that while I'm driving along, so all good. Yeah, a little bit more water in there. Okay, let's go spraying. I would have said it was galvanised burr, but I don't think it is. It's very spiky plant. And no good to stock at all, this one. But I've only got a small stand of it around this old shed here, and usually when I make up a batch of spray, I come down here and I give it a hit. Now I don't know what this weed is here. It's one I haven't seen before, but I'll have to go back and have a look at my weed book. But some of these weeds are very toxic, and you got to be careful. And yeah, I've never seen this one before, so I don't know what it is. But anyway, I might come down here with the spray bit. Get some, get some, get some. Now this weed here, I used to have a lot of it on my property, but over the last 20 years I've been spraying it, and you know, spray it around Christmas time here in Australia. It's known as briar rose, or sweet briar. I think the botanical name is briar rubinosa or something like that. But I think it came out from England in the 1800s as an ornamental, and you've probably heard of rose hip tea. This is where this comes from. If you look here, they normally go like a red colour, and they're really attractive to birds and stuff like that, and that's how they spread. So yeah, I hit this one with the brush killer, and Roundup on its own won't touch it, and these things get over 4 metres high, like, and they're a bugger of a weed. Feral goats like them, and but I don't. So there you go, briar rose. So we'll hit that one. Okay, now I just want to talk a bit about this weed here. It's quite an important one. It can cause a lot of damage to farms and stuff, but it's not as big a threat as it used to be years ago. I think it was back in the 1920s or something, there was like 70 million acres in New South Wales that was infested with this shit. And it'll take over, it used to take over a whole property, and you couldn't walk through it or anything like that, and people actually walked off their farms because of this weed. But saying that, there was some biological controls done on this weed back in the, I think, 1930, and it was probably the best success story ever for biological control on a pest. So what they did is they imported I think it was a moth from overseas, and it was called a Cactoblastis moth, I think it was. And you can actually see here on the leaf here where the moths actually got in and started eating it, and it'll actually break the whole plant down. Now, as bad as this weed is, there are some benefits to it, and if you look here, I grabbed a couple of them. They're actually the fruit off the plant. Now you got to be very careful with these because they've got really bad spines on them, and I always seem to get them in my fingers if you're not careful. So I just cut the top off there, and I go around it and make sure I get all the little spikes off them, because you don't want these bastards in your mouth, I tell you. But they're actually quite tasty, and I think I got them all. More there. And I tell you what, they're called prickly pear for a reason. They actually taste like pear. And I haven't had one for years. See, this is probably about as big as you get up here now, because the moth comes in and wipes them out. And pretty nice. Well, that bit's no good, but it's supposed to be really good in vitamin C too. So I just come up to the water tank up here to change the pipe, and luckily I did, because there's a leak in it. And yeah, so there you go. So yeah, it's about the only way you can control these. You can dig them out and burn them or bury them, but if you just chop them, they'll end up popping up everywhere. So spray's probably the best way, injecting them or hitting them with some sort of weedicide. So yeah, so that's that one. Prickly pear. Yeah. Come up here to change the or add a bit of length to this water line, because you wouldn't believe it, like I ran out this line about 12 months ago and put a lot of slack in it, and it just with gravity the hose stretches out and puts a lot of stress on the actual fittings. So I'm just adding another metre to it. I would add more, but that's all I've got. So yeah, lucky I came up to change it because there was you can see underneath here it was a bit damp, so it's leaking away. I'd say this big one again. Now I'll see if I can snag him up a bit more. I'll turn her on and see if that does it actually. Alright, back in a sec. This plant here tends to come up after a lot of rain. It's known as purple head. I don't know what the botanical name is. Not much you can do about this one, it's just too much of it. I've got whole paddocks covered with this stuff. It competes with the good grasses for stock, but I haven't got much stock in here anyway. But yeah, ideally you should be slashing it down. But it's too much to spray. But yeah, it's purple head. Here's a good example of a plant called Grand Mullein, or just common mullein. Also goes by the name of Aaron's rod because it's got this long cob here. Flannel weed's another one. In America, I think the locals call it cowboy's toilet paper, because the leaves are it feels like flannelette, and can be used for medicinal purposes. Like I think people crush it up, make it into some sort of herbal tea for stomach complaints and stuff, but it's not one you want to eat. Usually stock shy away from it too because of the irritant properties of the leaves. It usually pops up along areas where the soil's been disturbed and there's no competition from the other weeds. Now this has popped up along the roads here, and the seeds will lay dormant for a really long time. You'll think you've got all this weed and you'll come back 12 months later and there'll be a shitload again. Now I spray it, but you can dig it out and pile it up and burn it, but it's a lot of work. And the seeds will lay dormant for a really long time. Apparently they found a coffin in Scotland and they dug it up, and it was about 700-800 years old, this coffin, and it had an old Scotsman inside and a few other bits and bobs, and there was a bag of seeds in there. So they planted these seeds and they turned out to be Grand Mullein. I think the flower has some sort of historic significance as well. But it's not hard to kill with a weed killer. Just give it a bit of a dose with glyphosate and a brush killer mix. And I like to put a bit of dye in the spray as well, so then you're not going back and hitting it again twice. So yeah, so that's that one, guys. Okay, I've got this other weed here. It's funny, it's only popped up along the road here, so I suspect that it was it came in with the bulldozer that did the track here. And I'm not quite sure what this one's called, but I'll have to have a look in my weed book. But yeah, I'll come up here with the spray gun and I'll give this a hit as well. I'm pretty sure this one's a bad one too. So yeah.